Okay, we're on Daf Chav Ches Samad Aleph in the Bavli Maseches Gittin. I maybe get someone who brings a get. Behinichoi zokin oy choyle. Noisin law becheskas shehu kayim. Somebody brought a get, and the shliach left the husband when the husband was very sick or old or sick. He can still give it to the woman, and under the assumption that the husband is still alive, we're not worried that he might have died. There's a concept called Hamid Dover al Cheskasik. So because we know that he was alive when you left, even though it's possible that he died, we don't assume, we don't make assumptions.
What would be the problem? But what would be the problem if he did die?
There's no get lacher misa.
But nevertheless, I mean, she's not going to be. She's going to remarry. Her husband's dead. She's not going to be. Her kids are not going to be mamzerim.
What?
What are the legal consequences? The fact that the get was accepted and he had died before. Are there any legal consequences?
Very interesting. Is there any legal consequences? In other words, la halacha is does her status change if she's an almana or if she's a grusha? Interesting. I mean, her status would be different, obviously. The status of a grusha is different than an almana. In terms of her ksuba, no difference. If she's an almana, she'd be allowed to marry a kohen. If she's a grusha, she wouldn't be allowed to marry a kohen. So it seems like actually, in a way, it's a stringency to give her the get. It might be better for her to be an almana. Interesting question. And an important question. Simon Kuf Mem Aleph. Let me see. Let me take a look at the Shulchan Aruch. Let's see what it says. Sorry, it's actually taking a little longer than I thought it would. Halacha, Shulchan Aruch, Even Ezer, Simon Kuf Mem Aleph. Sif was Sif Samaches. Okay, shliach shevi get. So a shliach who brought a get. We're not worried that the husband might have canceled it. Okay, that's an extra detail. Or maybe he gave it a message that it's canceled. You give it to the wife, assuming that the husband's alive. Even if he left him old or sick, only if he's sick from the hands of heaven. But if he's very ill because he was injured, that's different. But if he left her on his deathbed, don't give it to her. If he gave it to her, it's a suffix if she's megureshes. It's only if he's less than 80 years from more than 100. From 80 till 100 is like a goisis. Above 100 is not. Very interesting. Yeah, so in a way, if she would be an almana, it would be better for her. The only difference would be, right? The difference would be if also another difference that the Beis Shmuel says is if she's an almana, she has the din of yibum. So if she doesn't have kids, then she would have to deal with chalitza. But if she's a grusha, she obviously doesn't have to worry about that. So there's a difference in both ends. If she's a grusha, she can't marry a kohen. If she's an almana, she would have to deal with yibum. Okay. Mishnah goes on and says like this. Bas Yisrael Nesul Kohen. If you have a Jewish woman who's married to a Kohen, and her husband went overseas, she's allowed to truma assuming that he's alive. Somebody who sends his chatos from overseas, you can offer up the chatos assuming that he's alive. Omar Rava. Rava says, we're only talking about a zaken that has not reached the age of 80, or a choyle that most choylem live. So we have the roiv. In other words, not a gois of a zaken shegila gvuras, but if he's 80, the goises shreiv goises in the misa loy, or a goises that the majority of goises in die, he's on his deathbed. So then it's a different story. Abai asked the question. Maybe get it says even if you left him when he's 100, you could give it to her, assuming that he's alive. So this is a refutation to what we had said, that if you're 80, it's a problem. So you see, even if you're 100. So the Gemara says Tiyufta, it's a refutation. Even the iflig. Once you get past the
David, you're freezing.
Okay.
David, you're freezing.
Does it help? Hello? Anybody,
Want to try speaking again, see what happens?
what about now?
Now it's
Do
better.
you guys see? Oh, now it's better?
Yeah.
Okay. So probably every few minutes it's going to freeze, unfortunately. I don't know if the video will make a difference. Okay. So you have to add the Ibaisema. Kivan the iflig. Once you're past 100, it shows you're not normal and you're like different than everybody else. So you have a whole different set of rules. But from 80 to 100, you might be like everyone else. Most people die from 80 to 100. And that's why past 80, you cannot assume the person is alive. So past 80, if you want to divorce your wife, you can't really send the shliach. You have to give it personally. Or we have to know that you're alive when the shliach is giving it. I mean, l'chayda, we're talking about you're traveling long distances. You're just going from one place and in the same city, you're just driving 20 minutes. I doubt the same thing would apply. Gemara goes on. Rabba, Abaya asked the contradiction to Rabba. So now it says in the Mishnah, maybe you get it says in our Mishnah, if you give a get and you left the husband old or sick, you can assume that he's alive. There's a contradiction. If a husband says, this is your get, and it only will come into effect 1 hour before I die, immediately she's not allowed to eat truma. Why? At every moment, we're worried that the husband might die, and the get would have been come into effect. So there's a contradiction. In our Mishnah, we're not worried. But in the brisa that we brought, we are worried. It's Sefta. Gemara answers, Truma, Gittin Karamis, Truma Efsher Get Lo Yavsher. It's very different. When it comes to Truma, she could always eat chulin. When it comes to get, there's a problem. Nobody's ever going to be able to get a get. And she's also at the same time Oh, so my father asked the question. I mean, the answer is actually very obvious. The answer is, if you're choishish lemisa, it doesn't mean that she's allowed to marry whoever she wants. It just means the get is batal, but she has to find out her husband's status. So there's nobody who's going to be able to get divorced with a get through a shliach, because we're going to always assume that the husband died, but you're not going to know for sure. So she'll be in a status of limbo, and everybody's going to be in a guna. So it's not like we'll say for sure the husband died. We're just not sure. So then you have a problem. Okay, so now we have another question. For Rabbi Truma. We have a contradiction with Truma also, because in the next part of our mission it says, Tanan, if you have a Bas Yisrael who's married to a Kohen and her husband went overseas, she eats Truma assuming that he's alive. That's what we said in our Mishnah, that even when it comes to Truma, she can eat Truma assuming that he's alive. But Aminu, there's a contradiction. If it says in that Tosefta, if a husband who's a Kohen tells his wife it's a get 1 hour before you die, she's immediately not allowed to eat Truma. So here, this question is much stronger. Over there is different because she made it forbidden to him 1 hour before he died. So really, we're not choishish lemisa. Here is different because he said you're forbidden when I'm alive. 1 hour before my death, at every moment, there's a suffix that, in other words, because it's 1 hour mechayim, 1 hour while he's alive, it's different than just being choishish lemisa. Mashenkin, her husband went overseas while he's alive. We don't assume he dies. Here, however, it's not just when he dies; it's also an hour before. Maskelo Papa. Now, Papa asks a question. How do you know? How do you know that the husband's going to die first? Maybe she'll die first. In other words, of stuff goes up. It depends on misa. And if you're not chayshish lemisa, we're not chayshish lemisa. Who cares if he says shoach haskoydim 1 hour before? Hello, Marabaye. Leikasha horab mer the leichayish lemisa. Horab yuda the chayish lemisa. One opinion, the opinion in our mission is that we're not chayshish. Is the opinion of Rab Meir. The opinion that we are chayshish lemisa, we are worried about death, is the opinion of Rab Yuda.
What's chayshish?
We're not worried. The opinion that we're not worried about death in our mission is Rab Meir. The opinion that we are worried about death is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Where do we find that they have this argument? In the Mishnah. No, in the Brisa. The Tanya, it's a Brisa about Maestros.
Want to know where we are?
Shumas, Alekech. We're now 3 lines in the bottom of Chofet. Someone who buys wine from Goyim. So what do you do from the Kutim? Sorry, that we assume that they don't tithe. So what do you do? And you don't have a kli with which to separate the wine to tithe it, but you want to drink the wine. So is there any option for you? What you do is you say, you talk in the future tense.
David, you're frozen up again. You're frozen up again, David.
Now.
Try that again. No, you're still frozen. You're still cutting up.
Anybody here?
Try that again. That sounded better.
What about now?
Now's good.
Oh, it goes in and out. It's basically cutting in and out. So I guess every time you let me know, I could hear you for some reason, but you can't hear me. And I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Hopefully, it will be resolved very, very soon.
I think last summer you sat in front of one of the bunks, and that was the best. It was near the shul or something like that.
I know. We didn't get the Wi-Fi codes, and she's not answering our messages. Whatever. I know. Actually, where I am is good too. It would be good. It's just I don't have the Wi-Fi codes, and it was down yesterday. I don't even know. Yeah, I'll figure it out, God willing. Hopefully by tomorrow. So Rabbi Meir says there's no problem. All you have to do is separate the truma theoretically. You just announce what you're going to separate, and the rest you could be meichel v'sheis miyad. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon say it's forbidden. They're worried that the noid will split. That before you have a chance to actually separate it, it will split open. So we see this machlokes. We see there's a big machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. According to Rabbi Meir, he's not worried. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he is worried. It's interesting that we said Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, even though it's also Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon. So too, just like when it comes to the jug of wine splitting open, that there's a machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda if we're worried or not. There's also machlokes when it comes to death. According to Rabbi Meir, we're not worried about the husband dying. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, we are worried about the husband dying. Rava has a different answer. Rava, again, the question is, it says in our Mishna, if the husband goes overseas, that we're not worried. But it says that's what it says in our Mishnah. But it says in the Brisa that we are worried if he says that it'll be your get 1 hour before I die. So Rava says, Shema meis loy chayshinon, Shema yomus chayshinon. Shema meis, maybe he'll die. Loy chayshinon. He never said anything about it again. He just went overseas, so we're not worried. He has a chetzkas chayim, says Rashi. So if a kohen goes overseas because he did not divorce her, she's not forbidden unless she dies. But this person, then he gave her a get on condition that the get will come into place 1 hour before he dies. So that's different. That's different because he says it's a Shema Yomus. Shema Yomus Chayshina. So the Shema Mace that he might have actually died, that is different. Then she has a Cheskes Chaim. Maybe he will die. Everyone dies eventually. So because it's maybe he will die, that's the difference. So it's a little different than the answer before. It's similar but different. The answer before was we're talking about while he's alive. But then our question is, the fact is, it depends on him dying, and maybe she'll die first. So here we're saying he's talking about his death in the future. So because he's talking about his death in the future, not now, it could happen at any moment.
It's not reading.
What about the case of the noid? You want to say the difference is if you're talking about the future tense. Nevertheless, Rav Meir says he's not worried. Noid is different. The reason why there are so many opinions by Noid that are strict, Rav Meir is lenient. The reason why there's so many... No, sorry. The reason why there's the opinion of Rav Meir who's lenient, the reason why Rav Meir is lenient is because you could give it to Hashem, you could give it to a guard. Shomer also needs a shomer. In other words, how do you know that the shomer is going to do a good job? How can you just rely on a shomer? Interesting. I mean, it's still better than not having anything. The Gemara views it as a strong question enough to have a new answer. Shema meis, we're not worried. Shema yomus in the future, that's a machlokes tnoim between Rav Meir and his chaveirim. Okay, we're up to 2 dots before the Mishnah. Somebody who sends his chatas from overseas. We're not worried that he died. You can bring his carbon. So the Gemara says, don't we require smicha? We're talking about the carbon of a woman. If you have a woman who has to bring carbon chatos, it says dabro b'nei Yisrael. B'nei Yisrael v'loi b'nei Yisrael. So it's only men who have to do smicha, but women don't have to. So the women are able to send a shliach to bring their carbon, but a man doesn't have to have he cannot have a shliach because he has to do smicha. Rav Papa has a different answer. If you're bringing a bird offering, there's certain avedas that you bring chata soif. So if you're talking about a bird offering, by birds there's no smicha. So the Gemara says, utzricha, we need both cases. We need all cases in our Mishnah. We have three levels in our Mishnah. The case of someone sending a get, the case of her husband who's going overseas, and the case of sending your carbon. Diashmin and get, mishum delay get. Mishum delay efshar. A woman needs to receive her get somehow, so of course we have to be lenient. Otherwise, there's no way for her to get her get through a shliach. Aval truma de efshar emaloi. But when it comes to truma, where it's possible, maybe no, because she could always eat chulin. Miyashmin and truma de zim delay efshar. Sometimes she doesn't have anything else to eat. She's poor. Truma is free. You get truma for free. It's a gift. It's a suffix. Maybe you shouldn't bring chulin lazora because maybe the guy passed away. So we need all 3 cases. Really, you could just say the case of chat soif and you'll know the other 3. So it's a concept of loizu avzu. We're teaching one and how much more so the other. Okay, so far so good.
2 questions. Number 1 is if a person needs to send a chatas and he's Medina Sayyam, if he's a male and it's a chatas that you have to offer a para or something like that, it seems like he has no option. He can't do it. Is that correct?
Yes. From this Gemara, definitely.
The other question is that perhaps a person says, "This is my get. If I die, it falls into it's going to come into effect 1 hour before I die." Maybe it's because he's putting himself in a dangerous situation. That's what the soldiers used to do before they went into war. Because he's talking about death, he's indicating that death might be.
Oh shoot! I don't hear you anymore.
Because he's talking. Because he's talking about death. This is the get 1 hour before, and it's going to fall into effect 1 hour before I die. I think that's what the soldiers used to do when they went into war, so that their wife wouldn't be an aguna. They should be divorced.
Oh, so yeah, the situation of going into war, that's a different story.
Yeah, so that's why you might need to assume that the person Pasha died, because death is a real possibility.
As another answer, you're saying?
Yeah.
Interesting. That is an interesting answer. Maybe we're talking about a situation where the guy was going into like a dangerous situation. I hear you. I mean, the mashmos is that we're not talking about a special situation, but you're saying just the very fact that he says these words 1 hour before I die, it sounds like he's like a soldier. Based of it. Interesting. It's an interesting answer. Oh no. Okay, we'll do the Yerushalmi now, a little bit of Yerushalmi. We're far behind on the Yerushalmi. Let's get to the place. We're Perek Shlishi, Halacha Beis. Perek Shlishi, Halacha Beis. No, it's actually, we're not so far behind, I realized. We should be able to catch up if we're lucky. Does everybody have it?
Well,
You'd Gimel Amud Base in the bottom.
not yet.
Yeah, you'd give all the base on the bottom. Exactly. Whoa. Put a bag over
Where
your head.
are we on Halacha?
Take that cardboard, put it over your head.
Halacha.
David, you'd Gimel Amud Base on the bottom. Halacha Base.
Not gonna work. Maybe just wait a little bit. Close the door, please. No, just close the door. Okay.
Is it
I had a
Halacha?
Halacha base. You'd give Amud base on the bottom.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's step above on the base. Okay. Hakosev, Toifse Gittin. Somebody,
We're in
if
the
you have a
middle,
scribe,
right?
Toifse Gittin, so he wants to prepare
In
in
the middle of
advance.
that Halacha?
What? What did you say? Okay, again. Hakosev Toifse Gittin. Somebody who writes, a scribe is writing multiple texts of a get so that he'll have it already. He has to write the place of the man, the place of the woman, and the time, and of course their names.
Yeah, but not charge.
The Pnei Moshe says, interesting. Let's say he sees a husband and wife arguing, and he sees that they have a marital strife. He can't say, "I'll just write the whole get." You have to still leave the Mekay Ma'isha. And in the Bavli, it says that you also have to leave the place where it says Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam. All the way. Shtari milva tzarch she'aniach mekayim hamalva mekayim aleiva mekayim hamois mekayim the place where the place, sorry, did I say the place where you write the name of the malva, the place where you write the name of the leiva, the place where you write the amount of money, and the place where you're writing the time. Shari mekachamemkar business tzarch she'aniach mekayim alekiach mekayim hamoicher. The buyer, the seller, the money, the place where the field is, where you're writing the field, because of the takana. We allow you to write the toifus. Takana is that we allow you to write the toifus, the text of the get, as long as you leave these spots. Rabbi Yehuda Paisa B'chula, and Rabbi Yehuda says they're all puzzle. He has exera. He makes a decree that you can't write the toifus because you also might write the toif, which is all these details. He says it's all okay besides for Gittin Noshim, because there's a din of lishma by Gittin Noshim. So we're geyser specifically by Gittin Noshim. The toifus are too toif. They shouldn't write the text, just like you can't write the toif. However, the halacha is like the Tanakama, that you were lenient. You can write the toifus in all cases. Says the Gemara, Hakosev Toifse Gittin V'chulu. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kosav Tarfei B'Toifis Kosher. Rabbi Yochanan says, let's say you wrote the Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam. Let's say you wrote Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kosav Tarfei B'Toifis Kosher. If you wrote the title of Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam and the Toifis, it's kosher. Shlogish Amar Kosav Tarfei B'Toifis is puzzle. You can't even write Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam. Halacha is like Shlogish. Masnisa Palgo Rabbi Yochanan. The Mishnah disagrees with Rabbi Yochanan because it says a case of Toifse Gittin Tzarch she'aniach mekayim ha'isha mekayim ha'isha b'zman. It says in our Mishnah you have to leave all these places. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say you can write the Torah? Our answer is Rabbi Yochanan says we're only talking about the words Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam, but not the other details. The other details you do have to leave. The question is, what's the difference? Why would you say the Chomar Machshir if you wrote Hareyat Muteres L'chol Adam? That's also the Torah.
No, but I think you froze again.
Oh. You hear me or I'm frozen?
We can hear you.
From the psul, you could learn the kashrus. Ilu kosav kulei lishma v'shem ha'isha shalei lishma. If you wrote the whole get lishma, but just shem ha'isha shalei lishma, shem the apostle is not apostle. Okay, the kavasah. So the opposite would be kulei kosav kulei shalei lishma v'shem ha'isha lishma kosher. That's what Rabbi Yochanan holds. Even though Harei Muteris is considered part of the Torah, doesn't matter. But the Yeved, you only have to write the shem ha'ish v'isha lishma. For her sake, that's why the Sefer really only has to write the name of the man or the woman when it comes to knowing the details. Let's say there's another person with the same name. Nobody's able to collect money from either of them unless you obviously need more identifying signals. Like David said, maybe write that his grandfather's name also. The question is, let's say, can you assume when it comes to get the same thing? Do we have the same problem when it comes to get? If you have a Yosef and Shimon who wrote to his wife a get, is there an issue in using such a get? Because it's not shchiach, it's not common to have two Yosef and Shimons. Even if it happens, we're not worried that it came from the other husband. If the woman is holding the get, we assume that it came from her husband. You don't have to worry. We mentioned this in the Bavli also. Kashal Reish Lakish. It's a question on Reish Lakish. If you didn't write Harei Muteris L'chol Adam in the Teifus, why would Rabbi Yehuda say it's all puzzle? Why would he say puzzle b'chula according to Reish Lakish? He didn't even write out Harei Muteris L'chol Adam in the Teifus, so what's the problem? Rabbi Yossi Bar Zeiro Linyan Acher over there. Rabbi Yehuda compares it to something else. But Taya Kaya Demar Shimon Bar Boy B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan will fit with what Rabbi Shimon Bar Boy said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Cholak Mekim Shnei Shitim Linyan Acher Afilu Kol Shu Pasal. That it says if you wrote even two lines, you wrote an Inyan Acher in the whole star. You're not allowed to leave a blank space. Even Kolshu, wherever it is in the Shah, you're not allowed to leave a blank space. So therefore, you have to leave the Torah empty. If you're going to leave the Torah empty, we're worried that you might be Messiah. There might be forgeries. So therefore, he doesn't allow you. You have to just write the whole get at once, according to him. He's worried about Ziyuf. That's what the Yerushalmi answers. The Carbonate explains, if you left a blank space between the Chesima Sa'idim, even if you filled it with something else, it's possible. Because we're worried about Ziyuf. So he's also worried about Ziyuf. What's a takana? You have to leave the spot because of the Bnei Yisrael, so it shouldn't be too easy to divorce them. According to the Pnei Moshe, our Mishnah fits with the Reb Meir that even the Torah really you don't have to leave blank. Chum said to leave it blank so that it's not so easy to divorce somebody. You have to work for it. You can't prepare it in advance. Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Shol Reb Chia bar Boy Kosher v'Atomer Ochein in Tamer Posel v'Yos. So he asked, Kosher. Rabbi Yehuda says Posel. And the Bifnei Takana is referring to before Rabbi Yehuda Posel. It's a Tanakama, which is the idea of the kashrus of the Tanakama. So why is he talking about the psul of having to leave the Mekim Torah? The Takana is coming to be machshir something. It's not saying the psul of leaving the Torah blank. It's coming to say something is kosher. My kadun. So what is the Takana? Takana is to be machshir. We're turning the page now to Yudal Amud Beis. It's for the sofer so that he'll be able to live. Rab Zayder of Huna B'Shem Rav, Halacha Rab Yudah Begittin Rab Elazar B'Shtaris. Halacha like Rab Yudah that it's possible when it comes to a get, but like Rab Eliezer when it comes to a shtar. So the question is, Neymar Halacha Rab Elazar. Why don't we just say the Halacha is like Rab Eliezer, which is that that everything is kosher besides a Gittin Aship. Halacha is like Rabbi Elazar and Gittin that it's possible, and like Rida and Shtada said it's possible. So the question is, just say the halacha is like Rida, that everything is possible, everything is no good if you write the typhus. We'll begin the Rav Shmuel Tavayu Amr halacha Rabbi Elazar. Tizbar Meimar Afacha Kain, because Rav and Shmuel always say halacha is like Rabbi Elazar when it comes to Gittin. Don't think that the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar only in Gittin, not in Shar Shtaris. So therefore, we have to say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to a get, and the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar when it comes to a shtar, to teach you that, in other words, to be lenient by shtaris and to be strict by get. Even though we could just say the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar, you might think only Gittin. So we have to say the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar by shtaris. That's why we have to add in the halacha is like him even by shtar, a regular shtar, to be lenient. But to be strict, we say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, ultimately the halacha is like the Tanakama in the Shulchan Aruch. We're in halacha Gimel now. The Mishna says that maybe get ba'avad menu. Somebody brings a get and it got lost. Kosher. If you found it right away, it's kosher. If not, it's possible. We're worried it's a different get. Bags or whatever, sacks. If you recognize it, it's kosher. That's not connected. But even if you don't recognize it, it's kosher. If you recognize it, even if it's on its own, it's kosher. Maybe get let's say you brought a get and you left the husband old or sick. You could give it to her, assuming that the husband's alive. If you have a Jewish woman, her husband went overseas. She can eat truma, assuming that he's alive. Someone who sends his chatas from overseas, you could offer it up, assuming that he's alive. Okay, so the Gemara says, and maybe get velvet mimenu. What does it mean immediately that you found it immediately? If nobody passed by, it couldn't have come from anybody else. Maybe Yaakov, I mean, you could ask what maybe it fell from somebody before, but I guess we're talking about that you knew that the area was clear before. You need to have 3 people that had passed for it to be an issue. It has to be 3 people. Yoda is considered like 3 people, says the Play Moshe. Sorry, what about over Goy? What if a non-Jew passed? Do we say that we're worried if it fell? So by non-Jew, we're not worried that it fell from him. He doesn't have a get. Or maybe we're worried that maybe the passerby trampled it and dragged it away, and this is a different get. So maybe the Goy dragged it away. That's what the Play Moshe explains. Said simply, are we worried that it fell from him or not? Or that's a simpler way of asking. We could learn from this case. What happened? Abba the grandson of Chana, I see Gitto Uvar Mine, and it fell from him. Ovad Mine, and it fell from him. Ashkeche Chad Sirke, there was a Yishmaelite who found it. Also, the came Rabbi Yochanan of Achsharun, Hada Omra over Goy Kosher, and Rabbi Yochanan said it's fine. We're not worried that it had fallen from the Goy, because Goyim are not shaykh when it comes to get, so there's no problem. Neymar Simon Havalebe. Gemara says maybe he had a special simon. Really, you can't rely on him if there's a guy there. Maybe in that case there was a simon. Like in Tony and Simon Gittin. The Gemara says a simon doesn't help when it comes to a get. In other words, if someone finds a get, a simon won't help. So we have to say it's because we're not choishish that it fell from the guy. Who the mar trained to last student, but Amhocha have amino sheboy haya nokud. Gemara says this that we say there's no siman. It's only if you're saying how many lines. It was 2 or 3 lines. But if you said that there was a certain letter, sorry, if you say the letter hey was a dot, there was a hole in it. That's a good siman. That's a siman muvak. So maybe there was a siman. We're back to original question. Reb Ezra ba came with Rabbana Hachalamu Paisel, and he aimer Achar Yisham v'Yishmei Gishmei. If you say siman muvak helps, in our Mishnah, why is apostle? Just the names is enough. The Gemara answer is there. When it comes to names, it's not enough because somebody else could have the same name. So then the Gemara asks again, we're on the next page in Daf Tes Vav Amud Aleph. What if you checked and you found there's somebody with the same name? It's a chumrah when it comes to arroyos. We're worried that maybe it's a person from a different place who has the same name. The moment it falls, Isra, it's weakened. But it says in Maseches Yevamos. The Karmaneda brings the Mishna. The Mishna says you can rely on a voice. If you hear a voice, this is plain he died. So there's a story, somebody was standing on a mountain and he said he's dead. So-and-so is dead. They went and they didn't find anybody there and they married the wife. And again, they found, the person said, I am bit by a snake and I'm dying. They didn't recognize him. No. And okay. And they married the wife off, and they weren't worried that it was from somebody else. So what's the difference in this case? Even we're specifically talking about that he had 2 Gittin in his hand. And one of them fell and the other one got destroyed. So in such a case, we're worried it was the second get. Okay, it's very different than the Yerushalmi. Very interesting. In the Bavli, we said we're worried there's a different city with the same name. You never know. You never know. As long as there's a slight chash, we're worried. But a simple move would work. Here we're saying he had 2 Gittin, a kosher and a apostle. We don't know which one it is. Tani bar kapara afilu hinichai ben mea shana v'asa bederech oid mea shana noisen la b'cheska shukayim. Even if he was 100 years old and took the shliach another 100 years to reach, you could still give it to her. So how do we know that if you tell your wife it's your get before my death 1 hour, she's forbidden to eat truma immediately. So the Gemara answers over there. Maybe now is an hour before he dies. Therefore, that moment it's a problem. Mashiach here, we see when the shliach left, the Baal was still alive, so he can assume that it's the same thing. Mashiach an hour before, it could always be an hour before. That's like the answer of Rava Mason. Okay, we're up to the Mishna. I think we'll stop here.
What's wrong with you? Open it right now.
Does everybody hear me, or did you
Yeah,
lose
it was
me?
good. No, we caught you every time we lost you. We heard it.
Okay,
good.
Baruch Hashem. All right, so God will continue tomorrow.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
What'd you say? Over?